But first, our top story again takes us to Texas, where another company is setting up shop to take advantage of the reshoring movement. Borderlands writer Noy Mahoney is here to join us and talk about it. Noy, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get right into it. XCell Logistics headed down to Laredo, just one of the very many companies setting up shop right there along the Texas border. Talk to us a little bit about it.
Yes, XCell Logistics Services and its parent company, Big Logistics, are making big moves along the border, no pun intended. XCell recently opened its second warehouse in Laredo, Texas, because of what they say is increased demand for capacity along the border because of all the freight flowing in between Mexico and the United States. The newest warehouse, they told me, is about 77,000 square feet. They also have another location. Their first location in Laredo is 55,000 square feet. So they say both of these facilities are, at capacity or expected to be at capacity in the first quarter. And they already told me that they are looking into building or constructing a third location, XCell's third location in Laredo. So they're really making big moves there down in South Texas.
And Noel, we're looking at XCell. Do they have a Texas presence at all, or is this going to be their first footprint really in the area?
This is really interesting. XCell was recently acquired by a company called Big Logistics. Big Logistics has major warehouse locations in Fort Worth, Dallas, and El Paso. So now, this combined company has a really strong presence, in all the major ports in Texas. And they're also looking at building a facility in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, which is near El Paso. So they're really putting a lot of focus on the U.S.-Mexico border at this time.
So last week, Zach Strickland, our head of market intelligence, spoke a lot about how there's this massive shift from California to Texas for a lot of companies and for a lot of carriers. You're seeing this kind of change over. And obviously, that has to do a lot with the nearshoring and reshoring initiatives. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it relates?
Yeah, that's specifically one of the reasons the XCell Logistics officials told me that nearshoring, it's not around the corner. What they specifically told me is nearshoring is here. It's happening right now. And this is one of the main reasons for their major push for, opening these new facilities along the border. And they only see, the demand for warehouse space and for freight service getting stronger in the coming years. So, not just Texas. They say New Mexico they see is growing. Other places along the U.S.-Mexico border, California, Arizona. So they see it being strong along the whole 2,000 miles that we share with Mexico.
And this has definitely seemed like something that was not just going to be, like you said, happening just as a blip, but definitely seems like a trend that we're going to see and be really expecting in the industry moving forward. Are there any other expectations of other types of companies that will be doing some nearshoring work as we look at this area, thinking about, of course, the automotive industry, consumer products, things like that?
Yeah, they told me XCell is one of their big focuses is automotive, which is, the focus of a lot of 3PLs servicing, U.S. Mexico. But they did say they see increased demand for consumer goods, electronics, TVs, home appliances, aerospace parts, parts for airplanes. So there's many different verticals that they said they see an opportunity to really grab a hold of between U.S.-Mexico trade.
So last week, Noe, we had Mary O'Connell, our 3PL expert, on, talking a little bit about how Customs and Border Protection rules are changing for brokers to where now, instead of having to get a state-by-state licensure, they can get a single licensure that covers all of their activities in multiple states. Can you touch a little bit about the value of this change in rules, especially when it comes to companies now seeing reshoring opportunities, not just in California or just in Texas, but the opportunities along the entire Mexico border and the 4 states that we share?
Yeah, really, I haven't seen Mary's interview, but it really sounds like just another tool for 3PLs to really offer, anybody wanting to get freight, back and forth across the border. That gives them another thing to say to customers. I have this license. You don't need to have somebody from each state. I can cover, the entire border for you. That's really what that sounds like to me.
And kind of sticking on some of that automotive path, can you tell us about what announcement was made on Friday around BMW?
Yeah, BMW came out with this huge announcement late Friday afternoon. I just happened to see it when I was finishing up my column, and they announced that they're investing $800 million in their existing plant in the Mexican city of San Luis Potosi, and it's specifically for a new line of electric cars, and they haven't said what type of car it's going to be, whether it's a SUV or a sedan, but they did say it's going to be a new line of electric vehicles. It's going to bring, I believe they said, about 700 new jobs, and it's just a really big deal. Another feather in the cap for Mexico, which has been the country has been pushing really hard to sort of make itself a place for electric vehicle production.
And so, Noy, what does this say about BMW and their hopes to kind of move to Mexico if they're German engineering, and then you've got them in Mexico now?
Well, like I said a second ago, Mexico is really pushing really hard to say, hey, we're a place for electrification. One of the reasons is lower labor cost, and the proximity to the United States. And Mexico has been changing their image of just cheap labor. They also want to say, hey, we have really highly skilled labor down here that can produce any kind of vehicle, whether it's electric or gas powered vehicles. So it's really just like I said, a feather in the cap for the country, and hopefully we'll see more of this types of electrification factories and new lines of cars coming south of the border.
And Noy, would it be another advantage for Mexico to have the opportunity to really build out a lot of infrastructure instead of really trying to really kind of retroactively update outdated, warehouses and things like that?
Yeah, that's a great point. For the past few years, we were seeing more, Ford builds this Mustang Mach-E electric vehicle in Mexico. And as you said, it gives these companies like Ford and General Motors and BMW a chance to retrofit existing factories, which will probably saves them a lot of money instead of building these giant new factories to build electric vehicles. But it also helps improve the existing infrastructure in these cities where these factories are, because they need better power lines, better roads. So it's just a sort of good deal for the places where these factories are located and the country itself.
And a couple of other company announcements as well wrapped up in Borderlands for this week. Who else is looking at making pretty significant investments down there?
Yeah, another German company called, I hope I pronounced this right, Balov Incorporated. They build electric sensors for different types of industries, for the automotive industry, other types of industries. But they made a major announcement as well. I think they're building a $55 million factory in the Mexican city of Aguascalientes, which is in central Mexico. And they said this factory is going to be for their customers in North America. So it's just another foreign factory, or foreign company, opening a factory in Mexico or building a new factory in Mexico.
And Noy, the list goes on. Can you also tell us about Charismatic Brands?
Charismatic Brands, another big announcement out of Texas that seems to come every week. This is one of the biggest uniform and school clothing manufacturers in the United States. And they announced that they're putting a major shipping hub in Dallas, Texas, near the DFW airport. And they say this hub is going to be a consolidation of several existing facilities around the U.S. It's going to serve as their sort of global sourcing space for, I suppose, for North America and for maybe even other countries. But it's just another sign, I guess, that as you spoke about earlier, that Texas is sort of more resilient, or has been compared to other places like California in terms of freight flows.
Absolutely, Noy. Well, thank you for keeping a wrap on all of this. If folks want to read Borderlands, where can they go to do that?
It's on freightwaves.com every Sunday, 7 a.m.
Awesome. No, well, thanks so much for being here this morning, and I'm sure we'll check in with you again throughout the week.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to head on over to the wall for our first look at our first carrier update.